Values of biodiversity. It is also called economic importance of biodiversity. See, we discussed today values of biodiversity here. So first we discuss about the biodiversity. Biodiversity or biological diversity refers to the range of life forms on the earth. It means different types of living organisms shows their variations. By the variations, every living organism developed on the earth with independent life. The biodiversity comprises of a complex collection of innumerable organisms known as the biodiversity. Means the biodiversity comprises different types of complex collection of living organisms. That living organism shows different types of variations, which constitutes the vital life support for the survival of human race. Includes millions of the plants, animals, and microorganisms, the genes they contains, and the ecosystem of which they are a part. See, in biodiversity, mainly different types of living organisms like plants and animals, microorganisms, genes, they are play major role in the biodiversity. That biodiversity support to human life. The support to human life in the different types of ways for the human life. See, economic terms of the biodiversity, economically, they are mainly two types of values of biodiversity. They are use value. The use values again classified into direct values, indirect values, option values. The second one is non-use values. Use values means we used biodiversity by the direct method or indirect methods or optional methods. In non-use values, the biodiversity cannot utilize it by the direct or indirect or optional values is called non-use value. The biggest value willing to pay for its existence. Existence values knowing its existence. So we've discussed use values. So use values in that first one is direct values. Direct values are concerned with the enjoyment, satisfaction, receiving directly by the biological sources. So human beings or living organisms are uses the biodiversity values in the direct method. By this use of direct values, they are enjoyed, they are satisfied by the receiving of direct biological resources. They can be relatively easily observed and measured, often by assigning prices to them. There are two types again. The direct values are again two types. Consumptive values, productive values. Consumptive values is also called non-market values, and productive values are also called commercial values. So consumptive values, here it is. Concept means used, direct used values, but one type of direct used values, the value of nature's products that are consumed directly, such as firewoods, fodder, meat. These are directly collected from the biodiversity, nature of the biodiversity. They are called nature's products. That nature products are directly consumptive value. They are firewoods, fodder, and meat. In other words, the products which are consumed directly without passing through the market. Without passing through the market, that nature products are directly consumed by the living organism. Consumptive use value seldom appear in national income accounts. Consumptive use value seldom appear in national income accounts. So the consumption value also mainly helps in the national income accounts. And the consumptive values uses. The most important point of the consumptive use of these values, that some rural communities closest to the forest or other natural areas can be prospered through the sustainable harvesting of wildlife species. They are such as hunting, direct consumption, example collection of berries, mushrooms, herbs, and plants. These all are consumptive uses from the biodiversity. See, consumptive values mainly in rural areas, the closest to communities present at the near the forest. In other ways, other natural areas also sustainable harvesting from the wildlife species. And the productive uses, the products that are commercially harvested for the exchange in the markets, in the formal markets. Each species is valuable to humans. The global collection of genes, species, habitats, and ecosystem is a resource that provides for many needs now. Means that harvest is collected from the biodiversity, that harvest products are exchanged in the formal markets. The formal markets gain mainly helps in the gaining of the money to human beings. Each species is valuable for the human life to humans. So that products are exchanged in the formal markets. They are gain money for the human life. It is also essential for the human survival in the future. This is often the only value of biological resources that is reflected in the income accounts. So means humans are also gain money by the productive use of biological diversity to the human beings. The next one, productive uses. The productive uses such as skins, ivory. Ivory means the teeth of the animals, tooths of the animals, medicinal plants, honey, beeswax, fibers, gums. These all are products from the biodiversity. These products are exchanged in the local markets or in the formal markets, and that human beings are gain money by the exchange of these productive values. That human beings are gain money, that money used for the human life for the surviving of different ways. The next, indirect values. It deals primarily with the function or ecosystems. It deals primarily with the functions or ecosystems, do not normally appear in the national accounting system, but they may outweigh direct values when they are computed, reflect the value of biological diversity to the society, locally, or at the large rather than to individuals or corporate entities. And the direct values often derive from the indirect values because harvested species of the plants and animals are supported goods and services provided by their environment. See, indirect values mainly play major role in the primary functions of the ecosystem. They are play major role in the primary functions of the ecosystems. By these indirect values, biological ecosystem or biological diversity maintained in the proper conditions with good and services. That environment is mainly helpful for the plants and animals are supported to goods and services provide their environment. See, two types of indirect values. They are non-consumptive uses and option values. Non-consumptive uses divided into following types like social values, ethical values, aesthetic values, endemism values. Now, non-consumptive values, they are the indirect values of the ecosystem functions, such as the watershed protections, photosynthesis, regulation or climate, and the production of soil, pollination, habitat for other species. See, these are the play major role for the value of biodiversity in the non-consumptive values. See, protection of watersheds is most important for every living organisms. Every living organism need water. That watersheds are protected by the ecosystem. And photosynthesis is the major source for the food material for all living organisms, for the animals. So photosynthesis also play major role under the non-consumptive values. Regulation or climates. Climates is the main pleasure like temperature, wind, and soil formation or production of soil. These are play major role for the biodiversity in the non-consumptive values. Like pollination. Pollination means the pollen grains are deposited on the stigma is called pollination. After pollination, the ovaries are converted into fruits. The fruits are edible to the human beings or to the all living organism as a food material. And habitat means shelter, shelter for other species. And the social values, biodiversity India particularly is important for religious, spirituals, and other cultural uses. Many plants and animals have ritual significance. The entire ecosystem is utilized for the cultural and spiritual purpose. Like, see some examples. Among the auspicious flowers offered in the temples are hibiscus offered to the goddess Kali. See, the Kali goddess offered or prayed by the hibiscus, offered by the hibiscus flowers. And the Datura flowers to Shiva. Datura flowers are offered to the Shiva in the spiritual manner. And in Gujarat, Sami or Jammi plant, Prosopis spicifera is used in the sacrificial fights. And the sacred values was attached to the patches of the forest, believed to be abode of gods and ancestors and utilized only for prayer and related rituals. A network of such sacred groves is still in evidence in some parts of India. Like in Telangana, Cassia auriculata, like Tangedu plant, is mainly offered to Batukama goddess. And Tulasi plants are also offered in our homes in the natural conditions. And the second one is ethical values. Although economic arguments can be advanced to justify the protection of biological diversity, there are also strong ethical arguments for the doing so. Protecting biological diversity can be justified on ethical grounds as well as on the economic ground. So ethical values means the protecting of nature by the every human beings or every living organism. every human being's respect to the biodiversity that play a major role in the protecting of biodiversity, and is also helps in the economic backgrounds. And ethical arguments assert that humans have a duty protecting biological diversity can be justified on ethical grounds as well as on economic ground. Ethical arguments asserts that humans have duty to protect the species based on their instinct value and unrelated to human needs. Instincts, values, and unrelated to human needs. The peoples do not have rights to destroy species and should take action to prevent their extinction. Means every people do not have any rights to destroy the species. That species or to prevent from the ecosystem is called extinction. The loss of one species have far-reaching consequences to biologically community in human society. People must learn live within the biological, ecological of the planet, must learn to minimize the environmental damage, take responsibility for action. People also have responsibility to future generations of humans to keep the earth is in good condition. So ethical values is the mainly focus on the protecting of nature, conserving of nature. The people also have responsibility for the future generations of humans to keep on the earth in a good condition. And aesthetic values, regardless of our own material self-interest, we should treat nature respectfully. Enlightened self-interest arguing that preserving biodiversity and developing of our knowledge of it will make us better and happier people. Nearly everyone enjoys wildlife, and joy makes our lives in good condition, good lives. A loss of biodiversity could very well limit the creative energies of the peoples in the future and thus restrict the development. See some aesthetic values. Aesthetic values means the beauty of nature. The beauty of nature is enjoyed by the every human beings. The beauty of nature enjoyed by the every human beings by their self-interest. By their self-interest, every human beings joy makes lives in good condition. And some examples, the beauty of wildflowers. Wildflowers like glacial national park, hiking, canoeing, and mountain climbing are physically, intellectually, and emotionally satisfying. Some people spend tens of the billions of dollars annually in their enjoyment of ecosystem and for the biodiversity. Endemism is the state of species being native to a signal defined geographic location, such as an island, state, nation, country, and other defined zone organisms. The situation in which a species is restricted to a particular geographic region as a result of factors such as isolation or in response to abiotic conditions. It is the complete biodiversity uses for the human beings or for the every living organisms.